Greetings! Is the sound working? It appears the sound is working. Has someone been messing with my OBS settings? Maybe. Welcome to another 4D game development stream. What did we do last time? I got a picnic table importing, and you might say that doesn't look really like a picnic table. Well, how wrong could you be? It actually looks a little bit like a picnic table. If I import the same file into Blender, that's what it should look like. And I can't believe I got that imported into Blender without clicking something wrong. This is an old version of Blender, I think. 2.79. Anyway, that's what it should look like. And that's what I've got. So you can see it's definitely the right model, and it's definitely loading it incorrectly. That's too bad. Yeah, we can see it there. Looks like that. The similarity is uncanny. There was numerous problems with this, which I actually filled in on the Trello board because that's still a thing. Bash, here's the Trello board. It's a picnic table in the wrong reference frame. Let's have a look at that. So inside the script here, oh, and as always, I'm taking song requests. Inside the script here, it sets the reference frame of the furniture item to be 7521, which is in the red room somewhere. That's not supposed to be meaningful. It does mean one specific reference frame, but I just picked it out by using get reference frame. Oh, which is actually still part of the game. I forgot about that. So I can get that reference frame, that printed out 5720. I think if I click again, I go back to that reference frame. Yeah, I do. So if I go here, yeah. So you can swap between reference frames due to some Lewis script here. But anyway, I went to the red room and picked out a reference frame, which was 7521, which is some specific reference frame in the red room. And as you can see, this is the blue, the water room. There's the picnic table. Here's the red room, the watermelon room. And there is no picnic table. Oh no! But that's fine. It was actually quite easy to find with the debugger. I checked this function. No, this function, which does indeed set it correctly. But then I also noticed when the position gets set, it sets a reference frame, which it should not do. So all I did was I took this out. Like I said, this, I was looking at it offline. Set the default reference frame to that and got rid of this. And then it was happy. Everything was good. This picnic table is now no longer in the blue room, and if I go to the red room, there it is. And it looks even worse, but slightly easier to see. Okay, easy peasy to fix. Whoa, GTI, git. Let's just commit that little fix. Yeah. Great, that's problem solved. Well done. Oh boy, I can close something off the Trello. Let me put these in a random order. Textures not handled at all. Very true. Picnic table loaded mesh incorrectly. It's no point bragging about the picnic table if it looks like nonsense. So let's fix the picnic table so it looks sensible. And for this, I found a pretty cool tutorial on learnopengl.com, which is pretty good. I already understood a lot of it, but the specific details are very well laid out, and that is very good. So I'll probably be keeping half an eye on that. And I installed Asimp and read a little bit of the docs for Asimp. So now it's time to go right here into the model and that dirty flag is used. See what we can do with some models to make things work. Essentially, all of this is silly. This is fine. Prepare the buffer array, make a mesh, and then fill the mesh in. But I don't want to get the mesh instantiated via this stuff, because this is the model loader I wrote myself very quickly, and it's not very good. Let's be bold and just say this is bad. Or it's not bad, it's, well, I mean it's bad because it doesn't work, but it's not needed right now. It exists in the source control, so if I ever get lonely, then I can bring it back. So first of all, I need to make sure I can build something with Asimp. So let's make an Asimp importer. Sounds like a really unpleasant Dungeons and Dragons thing in Asimp. Cool. Well, that included, but it did not build because I have not updated my makefile to include this library. I have a ponky.make. That's definitely not the right file. Let's port ponky's happy makefile. It's very happy. Hyper.make. That's the one I'm usually looking at here. Yeah, this is something I just wrote myself. Sources, dependencies, include libs, link libs, release. Well. I can never remember how you figure out what libraries are supposed to be called, but Asimp is apparently correct. It now builds. Cool, so we made an Asimp importer. And then apparently you call importer, really? Read file, where it gives a const AI scene pointer. And what does it want? It wants the file name, the string, and some p flags. Now these are flags for how it should import it, and there's one for triangulating the model. But that is in a different include file, which is a file called post-process. AI process. Here we go. Debone, flip UVs, gen normals, gen UV coordinates, global scale. Triangulate. Gosh, it can do many things. But we just want to triangulate it for now. Cool. Now there's a scene. Let's actually just run that, see if we get something that runs. And it's running in a debugger, and I've got breakpoints. Okay, that's not... okay, it does run, and that async code is presumably getting called. And it presumably it's reading the file. Well, I don't know if it reads it based on that command, or if it's like a delayed thing where it'll mark it for reading. Now the next thing up here is aha, I need to, so it can apparently give a null pointer, or it can have a flag that says AI scene flags incomplete. Yeah, this is not, doesn't know what a scene is. Some of these are lowercase and some are uppercase. It's pretty wild. Oh, okay. Okay, so there we go. Mark the model ready only if we get to the end. We're going to have some returns and errors and things like that, perhaps. So then we need to look at each mesh. Actually, you know what I might do is straight up run that in the debugger and see what can we have a look at that scene. What do we get? Meshes. Oh my gosh, there's a number of things going on here. How many meshes do we have? Num meshes, 3 meshes, 4 materials. Ah, okay. Children. Num children. So it says it goes through it node by node. So animation, cameras, flags, lights, materials. It does have 4 meshes. Normals. Num vertices, num UV components. Faces, bones. Oh, it's got everything. Tangents, texture towards vertices. These are pointers. So each node I wonder what version this tutorial is written for and what version of SIMP I have. Oh yeah, the debugger is slightly hidden by the camera. So I was just poking through the scene to see what exists in there. Oh, it's got M root node. Num children 2, there we go. So do I need to parse it from the root node? M children. Has 2 meshes, but ooh. Yeah, I probably do. So it has a flat. What we can see, the scene itself has a flat array of meshes and other things, but it has a hierarchical. I'm slurring my words a little bit. I'm a little bit tired. It has a hierarchical set of individual nodes, starting with the root node. And then and on. But those influence how the actual meshes are put together. Presumably the same mesh could exist multiple times in different translations or something like that. Like if you have a car with a bunch of wheels that are the same wheel, then perhaps they all show up together, rather than having the same wheel modeled 4 times. I could believe it. I'm not an expert in this, but that would make sense, right? That seems logical. Then if you want to make one wheel triangular, they all end up triangular unless you do something. I don't know. This is criminally similar to the tutorial I'm looking at, but that's why tutorials are here. Alright, let's stop this debugging. I didn't really need to do any of that debugging. Stop. Also, I found out you can do this. Nice. Just a little bit extra space. Like tiny, like 10 extra pixels. I'll take it. Okay, so for this node, I want to process this node's meshes. And then I want to process this node's children in order. So for I'm copying the tutorial uses I, but I always use N. So num meshes. So we want to pull out the mesh for this num mesh, which is the nodes meshes n. And we should get an AI mesh. Okay. Cool. And then we want to process that mesh. AI mesh. Oh no, 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 no. Oh, this is getting messy because this mesh is my mesh and I'm saying mesh a lot, so it's going to get real awkward real quick. But also, I don't care. So this is the mesh from the scene. I want to process that. Oh, well, whatever, we can do. This is a bit easier. Node and num children. And I just want to process node on node children n. The same scene in the same mesh. Okay. That's the source mesh. So I want to process that source mesh into my mesh, and I probably also still need the scene. Congrats, that function is now finished, but I don't actually have the processing that is required. So we're going to rename it to source and destination. That's great. Again, I'm looking at learnopengl.com for a lot of this, and there's no shame in that, okay? La 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 la. There's a whole whack of stuff here. Well, let's just do vertices and indices, and there's materials and other stuff, but for now let's just continue how we have been going so far and see where we get. So we need that. What are the vertices? I'm interested as to how this all gets tied together. So the vertices, that's literally just the XYZ position. So dest I can very easily copy that into XXZ, that's not right. XYZ, okay. But what would I make the UV? well, let's just say we don't care about the UV. It could be 0 for all we care, and the shades can be 0.5. Cool, that's a vertex. And dest can add vertex. See. Okay, how do you get the indices out? How do you get the... The indices are in faces, apparently. Faces. Mesh source, num faces. I keep typing mesh because the tutorial says mesh. M faces N. That's my face. Face num indices. Oh, 0. A triangle. What's the number of indices going to be? Is that always going to be a multiple of 3? It's triangulated, so I'd expect that to be a multiple of 3. And if I expect something, then I should assert that it is the case. Mod 3 is 0. Okay, yeah. I'm actually going to assert harder that it is only 3. And just say so I said it should triangulate, so this should just be 3, right? A very assumptive thing. Okay, assumptive is maybe not a word. So root node, and I need the scene there, and it's my mesh that I'm doing. Who knows what this will do? If whoa, that started on the wrong screen. It works fine on the other screen, you just can't see it, and dragging it around doesn't work very well. Wow, it's exactly as broken. That looks exactly like how I imported it. Huh. That's unusual. That is strange. Maybe my code worked, it's just some other problem. There's a lot of vertices. Are any of them really obviously wrong? Not really. Like I'm not seeing any not a number or all zero or inf or anything super weird. That's cool. And the indices 0, 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10, 11, 12, 13. Yeah, that's a little bit dubious to me. It's just an array. Oh no, okay, it's not the same because 3839 is 3203. So some of them get used more than once. Or alternatively, some of them get skipped. No. Oh, no. AKA is 0, 0. Oh, this is probably because I'm just combining all the meshes together. Yes, that's actually probably definitely what's wrong here. Well, I don't care. I want to combine all the meshes together because it's very boring. So, in process mesh, who is beeping me? Okay, so just to mangle this all together. Wait, what does this add triangle function take? And what is this m indices function? Surprised that didn't complain. Well, let's just see if we can just offset it so that each mesh gets its own set of indices. Oh, it started on the wrong screen again. It's because my mouse keeps hovering over because I'm trying to... Yes. Stop. I just want to play without debugging it. I want to see if this picnic table doesn't look like a sham. No, it still looks like complete garbage. Okay, stop debugging. Build that. Now run it as if it's actually just been built. Nope. It's still very broken, which is curious because it's still broken in the same way. This model does import into Blender correctly. So it's just because I'm being silly with... It's got multiple meshes and I'm attempting to flatten them all into one set of static geometry. Which it should be doing. It now imports 3,840 vertices and has 3,840 indices, which are apparently linearly ordered through these vertices. I didn't check that exactly. I mean, it could be slightly out of order here and there, but it seems linearly ordered. So it imports a bunch of vertices and then renders them in order, and it just comes out with some quite minced up rubbish, really. And why is that? I thought ASIMP would answer all of my questions, but instead it actually seems to have made everything exactly the same. Now I'm pretty sure this did work in the engine test, and I think I had a very similar kind of rubbish but similar loading function. It wasn't quite as nicely split apart as the new one, but well, again, that's part of the problem. I mean, that's not really doing much different from what I had. It's multiplying everything by 2 and recording the min's max bounding box of the model, which is fair enough. And it's breaking faces up into multiple triangles. But other than that, it seems like it should be working. So all in all, it seems fine. And I feel like this is the wrong project. This is the right project, and this is the main file I wanted. See how broken it is by looking at the polygon. Okay, geez, yes. I mean, that seems quite correct. It's quite a nice little low poly. I also have another model, actually. When I think about it, in the old one, there's the mirror, large frame.obj. Try that one. Let's not picnic face that. Excuse me, I did not press. Well, I guess I did press it. Computers ain't no liars. Let's try this one. Well, that's certainly revealing something, but I'm not sure what. Is it revealing that it's only drawing half of the triangles it should be? Yeah. So maybe my maybe although it would have asserted if that was false. Right, okay. So they really only have 3. Why is that? I think something's... Something is... Something is funny. And that is... I'm not sure. Ha! Another high quality stream where I'm not really sure what the problem is and I'm sort of blankly staring at things for a while. It's programming, it happens. So that adds the contents of M face for each M face in the number of faces in the mesh. What if we just load the first mesh? This thing only has one mesh, it's one solid object. Well, let's go back to the picnic table. That one. Whoa, that's not how you do a comment in Lua. Also, I always instinctively hit build, even when I'm writing something that's like a... Yeah, so that's just... What? That's unusual. Maybe I should just debug through this whole thing, because that's surprising. I thought it had like 4 meshes. I assumed maybe like the legs and were one, and then another one was something else. You know, I figured it was like a few different bits and pieces. So the importer imports the scene. Now we have this big old scene that's got a bunch of stuff. It has 4 materials, 3 meshes, and a root node with 2 children. Fine. We'll process that root node. It has 0 meshes, but it has 2 children. Oh, I think I realized why that didn't change anything. We'll process the... Yeah, it's got 2 children each with 1 mesh, doesn't it? This child node has 2 meshes. The first mesh is this source mesh, which has 504 vertices, 168 faces. 168 times 3, is that 504? Very well could be. 160 times 3 is 480. 8 times 3 is 24. That looks like it adds up to 504. Okay. So let's process this mesh. So for each vertex of the source, there we go, which has, yeah, the same old 504 vertices, we're going to make a vertex. And that's cool. I don't want to go through that 504 times. And then for each face, for 168 faces, we add those things. That's cool. So now the actual mesh should have 504 vertices and 504 indices. That is not perfect. I would want to simplify it a little bit if possible, but it should be correct, unless this model is broken or my rendering is maybe completely wrong or something, which I actually should probably check. That would probably be the easiest way to make sure it's not broken. Yeah, anyway, now it goes out, then it processes the next node. It has 1 mesh. which has another 3,204 vertices. So I don't know, it's missing one part of it. And that's not much. Okay. I mean, I'm skeptical that these would work for the room, so fine, but then just fail for these. So I've made some cataclysmic error. So let's check that fill function. That init function did indeed bind the right things. It's not got, because I am just slightly different. Yeah. And then when it comes to rendering it, which has happened a number of times, it issues a GL triangles call with this many indices, which is 3,708, which is how many we saw. They are indeed unsigned shorts, that's what they were. Although that is definitely not properly set up. And then it's done, bash. And it's going to render that a bunch of times. But why is it so screwed up? That's the question I don't understand. Right, it's time to get very simple. Hello Blender, my old friend. Here we go, it's a cube. File, export as a wavefront obj. We're going to export this cube and we're going to try and load it. I'm going to export it as cube. Yep. Only the selection. Export. Did that do anything? I'm very unsure of how to use Blender, but we now have cube.obj. Excellent, that looks just absolutely perfect. It's a cube, it's got some vertices, 12 of them, and 6 normals. It's perfectly pure. Exactly what I want from my cubes. Okay. Let's quit it with these fancy schmancy models and try and actually just load something that is about as basic as you can get. What happens when I try and load and render a cube? Oh dear, that's definitely wrong. Is it that some of it's inside out? Is that what the problem is? Because this looks like... No, I don't think it's inside out. But just for giggles and grins, let's turn off backface culling. Well, as you can see, it's still not really exactly quite inside out, but it's just weird. This is going to be something real obvious, like I'll have done something like 0, 1, 2 or X, Y, Z, just like I'll have messed up the most basic part of one of the things. Yeah, this doesn't actually reference the scene, so I can simplify that for now. Right, let's see what loading up a cube looks like in the debugger, because it really should you know, look pretty simple. N is 49. Okay, well, N is not yet here. Num vertices 24. Okay, so is it going for 4 on each face divided by 6? Num faces 12. 12 triangles. Okay. That's pretty cool. That's what I want. But why are they all weird? Okay, let's see what vertices it gave us. They should show up here. So, yep, that's 24 vertices, so 6 faces, 4 on each side, that's 24. So all of these have -1 in the y coordinate, the next one should have something else, +1 in the y coordinate. Yep, slight rounding errors there, nothing to be worried about. Then what have we got next? +1 in the x coordinate, and then yeah, it's going through the sides of the cube. So I'd expect the faces to be like 0, 1, 2, 2, 1, 3, 4, 5, 6, 6, 5, 7, something like that. Close this down. What do we really get? 0, 1, 2, 0, 2, 3. Okay. 4, 5, 6, 4, 6, 7. Yeah, that seems fine. 8, 9, 10, 8, 10, 11. Yeah. That does seem correct. It wasn't quite what I expected, but definitely should result in a cube with all of its sides looking like sides. Also, this is very hard to see what's going on. So let's just render the first 6. First 6 indices should give us precisely 2 triangles at one side of the cube. We already found out it's the bottom. Now, why is it like that? That's how is that? This is going to be a really trivial bug. The longer a bug takes to find, the more likely it is to be either very, very trivial or very, very contrived. And this has already taken me at least half an hour of looking, and I'm not particularly closer. So is it going to be like 0, 1, 2? No, 0, 1, 2, 0, 2, 3. Well, that's just wrong. You shouldn't do that. I would expect it to be like 0, 1, 2, 0, 2, 3. Or something. Unless this is to do with the model being flipped inside out by my 4-dimensional thing. I mean, it never really verified that that was at all correct. So it could be that the model is loading correctly and then getting mangled by my very silly. Well, I wouldn't expect the individual triangles to be so affected by it. But nonetheless, it's something we could have a look at. We know the room basis camera is fine. So now it'll just appear in the middle of the room. And indeed, it is right there in the middle of the room. This is going to be like a really basic thing. If I Google like what's the first mistake people make when loading ASIMP importing models, it's going to be this. Oof, and it's about an hour long. I'm kind of running out of ideas, which makes me think I should take the stream offline, have an investigation of this, see what I can figure out, because right now this is hot nonsense. Is this the right way of accessing the faces? The number of indices is always 3. ASIP's interface defines a mesh as having an array of faces, where each face represents a single primitive, which in our case, due to the triangulate option, are always triangles. A face contains the indices of the vertices we need to draw in what order for its primitive. So if we iterate over all the faces, and store all the faces indices in the indices vector, we're all set. Okay, I mean that's basically what I'm doing, and I believe I'm even doing it correctly. Well, exhaling for an extremely long time didn't really help. I could add another flag in. Seeing as I don't know what I'm doing, that's never gonna enlighten me, but it could be fun. Yeah, that's not... So let me do a real look into what this is. I've stopped it right there. I'm just going to look at the first 4 indices. 0, 1, 2, 0, 2, 3. Totally seems valid. 0. So we've got -1 on the y-axis, and then we can just draw the rest of them here. So we got with let's say x is this way, z is this way. So we got 1, -1, that's 0. We've got 1, +1. That's 1. We've got -1, +1. Does 2. We've got -1, -1. That's 3. That's in terms of the stuff it's put out. Just to check the destination. This is 0, 1, 2, 0, 2, 3. So let's just draw it. 0, 1, 2, 0, 2. They're already connected. 3. I mean, would you look at that? That looks like these values are correct. So I'm attempting to debug something that's not actually broken. Drawing it, or my vertex array or something like that, is not correct. So where is the actual problem? Where's the real problem? Is it here? Is this the real problem? Is this even being called? It's not being called from a It's not being called in a render context. Could it be as simple as it's not being called in a render context? Because I've said it on stream a bunch of times. You gotta only do this stuff in a rendering context. And if you do it in other contexts, you'll get just not the right results. Although I do get kind of the right results, which makes me very dubious. So let's just defer this. In the worst way I can imagine. This is just a very simple deferring of this. So this really load, it's going to do what load did, and then load is just going to set file name is file name, and then class is called model, not mesh. And then if it's not ready, it's going to call really load, and then it's going to assume it's ready, because I know it actually does achieve that goal. And it just needs to store what it's actually doing. Gosh, it's going to be something like this that's just very simple. Interesting. I've broken this now. What? Oh, that's doing that. Huh. Well, it's now loading that. How did I break the room? They are definitely done from a rendering. I mean, that's right in the render function, that this mesh stuff. Okay. let's get rid of this hack. Am I like overlapping buffers with things? I've made a bit of a... Oh, sorry, was that on the wrong screen? Oh, now we got a working cube. But now somehow this has failed. Very nice. I do not know why the room has now failed. But it's nice. I'm glad that... yeah, the executable failed. I don't need to debug that. It's all good. Yikes. That is a beautiful picnic table. It's missing the strut in the middle. Okay, so it's the legs and the strut. It's got the wrong element buffer for this. I have a way of telling. I can see subtle differences in the way the room is rendering. Okay, so that was missing the bar underneath because of that return value. So that truly is a beautiful picnic table. Why is... Oh wow, that really is quite a messy mess. But how come? How come it's... Because it's binding different things whilst leaving the old vertex array. Oh, I see the problem. Okay, so when you have a vertex array bound, then these buffer things do buffery stuff. It's a very bad explanation. But you can't start filling these buffers whilst you've got some other vertex array bound, or you'll have a bad time. So let's just solve that. So if we have the vertex array, what is bind vertex array? Oh, it's because I put lowercase v. Okay, this init and bind. Okay, cool. Yeah. Blah, it initializes it, it binds it. Okay, we don't have it, so this is a little bit hacky. This is what we want. Yeah, this actually makes sense now. So these get allocated just the one time right here, and then every time after that it just puts it onto the right thing. So that should maybe be sufficient to fix the problems. And that opened and closed very quickly, which makes me think it had a really terrible time. index count, buffer array is not valid expression. Okay, let's just try again, but just stop before you get there. But not valid expression. I'm pretty sure that it is, and you should not act on it. So prepare now calls init on the buffer array, and it says, oh, okay, if there's a vertex array, that's what we're going to use. Otherwise, we're going to bind in the buffers. I think I may be touching on some subtleties of OpenGL that I don't fully understand, and thus I'm surprised that causes it to crash. Just to take that out. I am surprised that causes an actual crash, though. Usually OpenGL is just like, nah, you're being silly. Stop being silly. Stop it. It gives like an error or whatever. Okay. Now it's not drawing rooms, but it is indeed drawing picnic tables. That's not really an improvement. Why does that cause a crash then? Let's just check what happens when we're filling this buffer here. I didn't actually check. But when you call bind vertex array, let's just check. When you call bind vertex array, it does indeed no vertex object with the name array exists. One is created when array is first. I didn't know that. So, I mean, that doesn't enlighten me. So this is called fill and prepare, the only places this gets called. Let's just be overly specific. Let's actually bind every single little thing every time. Okay, that did actually help. Now, why is that the case? I don't actually know. If I just put these down here, will that cause that to work? Is it because it buffer data just writes to the last one that has been bound, whereas other commands come off whichever one is in the vertex array object? Yeah, okay, that's the reason. That's a little bit of cruft. Okay, let's also fix, whilst we are here, whilst we have the power of the matrices of these reference frames. Oh, there it is. And now it's there. No, it's not. What? Yes, it is. Unbelievable. And now it's there. Now it's there. And now when I go down, it is... Wait, I don't want to peek. So where was it up here? There. It's going to be like here, facing this way. Oh! Nailed it. Let's make this big so we can have a reasonable look at this picnic table. Well, obviously it looks horrible because it's completely flat shaded. However, we do have a horrible shade parameter which makes stuff... Okay, this is really hacked, really load. I really feel like it should just be... I need to tidy up those functions before I finish today, because that's very silly. Okay. So what did I not do? I didn't import texture coordinates. Also the shade. I can make the shade... I can make the shade appear. So just to... Just to have, look at this. That suggests that I should do it this way. But I should also check I'm going to check that every single frame. Well, that has a texture. That has my little texture smeared all over it, and it looks horrible. But it is indeed textured. Anyway, that's pretty sensible. Let's see, what can we do? The shade. Let's just give it some horrible lighting. Normal. I might need to set that these get generated if they don't exist. So let's make a normal X, Y, Z. X, Y, Z. And the shade is going to be 0.5f plus 0.5f times dot of the normal and normalize of vec3 with the lighting direction, which as far as I can be bothered saying is 1, 2, 3. And that should give us a shade value that has like a real lighting to it, but well, fake lighting. Well, pretty. I mean, it doesn't. It's just completely inconsistent with everything else, but it. it adheres, well, it doesn't have like self-shading or anything. But I mean, it's sort of better than not having it. Wow, that's the thing. I really don't like this if statement in the middle of that, but you know, I can deal with that later. What other? Let's add a triangulate. Remove component. Maybe I want to remove. This is ignored if normals are already there at the time this flag is evaluated. All the importers try to load them from the source file, so they're usually already there. Face normals are shared. Well, let's come to that. We can cross that bridge when we come to it. Right, so one other thing is I really need to sort out what's going on. That should... Can I have an anonymous... Scopes enumeration requires a name. What about unscoped? Yeah, I can just do that. Yeah, that seems like reasonable code that any modern person would say is sensible. This should just be the constructor. Okay, I really need to figure out how to destroy all this stuff in a render. Which actually, it's probably not that hard. Because it's all contained within the rendering engine. M status is ready. I'm just going to do a case statement. No. That is a really, really bad way of doing that because it doesn't handle state changes at all. If im status is pending, why are these all lowercase? What's happened? I always do enums with uppercase, but now I'm just like, hey, screw uppercase. Just go crazy and wild. There we go. If M status is pending load, if M status is invalid, return. We don't want to try rendering something that doesn't make sense. Okay, there we go. And it's all like, yeah, what have you done? That's cool. I don't need that anymore. Oh, and that just fixed it. Wow, I wish it was a bit bigger. Oh, I took that backface culling off. I want to put that on. Also want to just check it out in polygon mode. Oh, apparently also in debug mode. I really should figure out what button to run it without running it in the debugger. What does it look like? It doesn't have that many triangles. That's cute. That's just straight up cute as can be. No, I don't want to check that out. I want to check out the model loading thing. How well does it combine the mesh things? Get over here, you silly thing. The mesh ends up with, oh, fewer vertices, but more indices, which is what we expect. Indices are a lot smaller than vertices. Okay, I don't actually want to run that. What I'm going to do, I'm going to boot up VLC because I clicked the wrong button. Unbelievable. Right, let's just, I really don't want that cube anymore. It was good. I'll add the large frame because it's probably useful at some point. I'll tidy up my scripty script because it's got a bunch of commented code. Okay. It's all pretty sensible. Async stuff is pretty good. Yeah, I mean, I'm happy with this change. Oh yeah, I'll add the large frame. Oh. Okay. One way I could fix the destruction of all the rendering stuff, because the moment it just, whenever the destruction gets called is when it gets destroyed, is that it's all held inside a rendering engine pointer. Inside the game. It's all in here. So it could just make that into a thing that gets destroyed during the next render call. I'm very tired. But I got it to work, and that's good because things that work are nice. Look at that. I kind of wish it was like 3 times the size. But that will come. A friend of mine sent chaise launch model, which I should definitely try to import. Huh. It kind of almost works with the texture, apart from it looks like a horrible watermelon. So the next, let's go back to that Trello board. Painted table mesh loads incorrectly. Okay, that's right. Texture is not handled at all. That's what I need to do next, which I'm not going to do now. I'm going to do it when I'm more awake another day. But probably not even tomorrow, because Monsters Expedition comes out, so I'll probably be playing that. Murdering some trees. So, overall, I hope you had a good time. I'm going to say bye. Catch you later.